All right, I'll call to order this Bristol, Tennessee City Council meeting of November 6th, and want to welcome everybody here. Tara, will you please call the roll?
King.
Here.
Powers.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Denise.
Here.
And Fire.
All right. I want to thank everybody for attending and to let you know there's a number of opportunities for folks to speak on matters of city business this evening. There's a sheet to sign up outside this room, and I've got a couple of people on that. Each time on the agenda, I'll note when public comment is welcome. Also, people can address City Council during the appearance of citizens section on our agenda for things that are not on the agenda. For invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like David Welch, who's Associate Pastor at First Presbyterian Church. He's also Secretary, serves on our school board, Secretary of that board. He will lead us in our invocation, and following that, I'd like for our Parks and Rec Director, wherever he is, Terry Napier, and also member of Believe in Bristol Board for Small Business Saturday and lots of other things, if he'll lead us in our pledge after that.
Let us pray.
Hold on, we're standing up.
Sorry. Now let us pray. Father, we give you thanks this day for the high calling of service and the opportunity it affords to faithfully follow you more and more. Guide our hearts, our minds with clarity and purpose. Guide our speech with meekness and directness, and grace all who are gathered here with the wisdom of your Holy Spirit, so that their decisions reflect redemption and their deliberations reach successful ends that will nurture the bonds of community while bringing glory to your name. We pray this through the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. Mr. Soar, do you have anything to add to our agenda this evening?
No, Mayor, the agenda is complete.
Thank you very much. We have one proclamation and two recognitions on tonight's agenda. First proclamation is Small Business Saturday, and if the Ken Moniak, Chairman of the Board of Directors of Believe in Bristol, and Miss Emily Champagne, who works with Believe in Bristol, they're with us here to accept the proclamation and share a few words after Councilwoman Lee Powers reads the proclamation.
Sure. And of course, we all value Believe in Bristol for all the good works that they do downtown, the many events that they sponsor, and all the support that you give to our downtown merchants. Whereas the City of Bristol, Tennessee celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 30 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of all businesses with employees in the United States and are responsible for 64% of net new jobs created over the past 20 years. Small businesses also employ over 49.2% of all businesses in the private sector in the United States, and on average 33% of consumers' holiday shopping will be done at small, independently owned retailers and restaurants, and they'll be celebrating in all of our brew shops as well, right? Okay. Whereas 94% of consumers believe that supporting small, independently owned businesses is important, and whereas 76% of all consumers plan to go to one or more small businesses as part of their holiday shopping, and whereas the City of Bristol, Tennessee supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods, and whereas advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, the Mayor of Bristol, Tennessee, Margaret Firerobin, does hereby proclaim November 24th, 2018 as Small Business Saturday and urge the residents of our community and communities across the region to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Congratulations.
On behalf of the Believe in Bristol Board of Directors, we'd like to thank the City of Bristol, Tennessee City Council for this proclamation. Now is a more important time than ever to emphasize the importance of shopping small, because people are listening and they want to see the direct impact they can have in their own community. Supporting small business is one of the best ways to help give back to the Bristol community.
Just a few more small business statistics to add to the ones already presented by Councilwoman Powers. Like she said, small businesses account for 99.7% of all businesses in the United States. Small businesses accounted for 60% of new jobs created in the U.S. between 1993 and 2011. Small businesses donate 250% more than larger businesses to nonprofits and community causes. And most importantly, if you spend $100 at a local business, roughly $68 stays in your local economy. If you spend the same in a large business, only about $43 stay local. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, next on our agenda, we have a recognition for our Tennessee Parks and Recreation Association Award. And it's our honor to recognize our Nature Center and BTN TV staff for their selection as this year's recipient of the 4-Star Award from the Tennessee Recreation and Parks Association. This annual award is presented for their excellence in public education programming through BTN's Steel Creek Explorer series. The program is a joint effort of Jeremy Stout from the Nature Center, Brennan Dye, Senior Media Production Specialist for our Community Relations Department. And I think we have Terry Napier here. Anybody else with you?
Yes, Brennan and Jeremy Stout from the Nature Center.
If y'all can, I couldn't see you back there. Come on forward.
He's hiding out. Yeah, we were very honored at the October annual meeting of the Tennessee Rec and Park Association to receive this award. The 4-Star Awards, there's several categories, and I'll tell you, they're tough awards. You're judged by your peers across the state. So we were really thrilled to win this award, and the fact it's a collaborative effort between two departments really speaks volumes for how we do things here in Bristol. But we've got Brennan has put together a little clip of our Steel Creek Explorer, and Tim Beavers is going to help me out. I think we have 20 some episodes now, so this is just a little snippet of what the Explorer is all about.
Even though the water stops flowing in this creek, if you know where to look for it, you can still find some water, especially water that is hiding underneath rocks and crevices. Even the fall leaves that coat this creek bed can all help to hold moisture close to the ground. As the snows melt and the spring rains come and this creek bed fills back up, these leaves are going to begin to decay. And that decay forms the basis of the food chain for many of our aquatic ecosystems. The beaver skull looks very similar to just a gigantic rat skull, and that's essentially what they are. You've got these large canines in the front that are chisel-shaped for cutting wood, just like we use chisels to cut wood ourselves. And then they have these flat molars in the back for processing tough plant material. Looky here. We have got a small mite or some other arachnid that is actually crawling around in this moss. Probably doesn't like the light that I'm shining on it. Look, here are some structures of the moss itself. Well, we've only been here for just a few moments, and already we're finding a hotbed of biodiversity. I've heard green frogs and bullfrogs calling. I've seen dozens of frogs leaping into the water as I walk past. Dragonflies like these common whitetails abound. There's a bluegill in this pond. But as I said, this really is the heart of this forest and this whole side of Steel Creek Park, because not only the aquatic creatures, but this habitat services life all around. There are flycatchers in the trees. And of course, a water body of this size is going to attract mammals. A mountain pond tucked away in the woods where no trail goes. Folks, this is as magic as it gets. So whether you're here to explore 57 acres or 2,000 acres, be sure to come to Steel Creek Park, because that's where you can be the explorer.
Clearly, we have a pretty good team in front of the camera and behind the camera. So we were awarded this really nice plaque, and I'd like to give it to these gentlemen that did all the work.
You want me to? Jeremy, say a couple of things.
Well, this was a great honor, because we certainly have a lot of fun doing these episodes. Steel Creek Park is an easy place to fall in love with, and it's certainly an easy place for me to look for every opportunity I can to get outside and enjoy it and to share that with others. So as long as our respective departments will keep allowing us to do it, we'll keep bringing these episodes. So thanks so much.
Okay, Brennan.
And I just want to say that this show is an absolute joy to do every time that we do it, when we're able to do it. Sometimes it doesn't always work out with the topic that we have planned, whichever small animals we might be tracking. Sometimes we don't always find them. But I also just want to say, too, that Jeremy is a feather in the city's cap. Everything that he does is just 110%. And I also want to recognize my colleague Scott Hill. He's actually upstairs directing right now. He's helped out in the last year on several episodes, and just some of his videography is unbelievable. So thank you.
We are very, very, very fortunate on both ends to have the media that we have with the talent that we have. When we first talked about having a TV channel years ago, 20 some odd years ago, or about 20 years ago, technology has changed where we can do what we do, and then we are also very, very fortunate to have the talent that we have. And then at the Nature Center, Jeremy's talents and enthusiasm, I recommend going on a walk or a hike with him, not to mention watch more of the episodes. He loves what he does. His enthusiasm comes through. And we also have two others who work at the Nature Center who also are very talented, very knowledgeable, and very enthusiastic. So Steel Creek Nature Center and Park is an awesome asset. Can't say enough about it. So congratulations, well-deserved. Well-deserved because of hard work, well-deserved because we could put our programming up to any city, any size in our country at this time, I think. Thank you. Next is recognition for the Bristol First Award. And the city has over 340 full-time and part-time employees that serve our community on a daily basis. And we frequently hear of employees that go above and beyond in their service. And the Bristol First program was created to be sure that we can recognize those efforts for what people do for our community. Our latest recipients of the Bristol First Award, Ms. Terry Talbert, Director of Community Relations, is going to present a brief overview of the program and talk about tonight's winners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This month's Bristol First Award winners are an exceptional group of individuals from our fire and rescue. Each member of the group spends many long hours in training each year and holds certifications in many individualized disciplines. You can train and you can educate people every day, but you can't teach compassion, empathy, or kindness. Those are innate traits that cannot be acquired. We are honored every day to work with people such as these in many different ways. Firefighters and emergency medical technicians, one might say, are a different breed all to themselves. They run into fires as everyone else is running out. They respond to EMS calls, never knowing what they'll find upon arrival. It could be anything as simple as a blood sugar issue to a car accident with injuries or even fatalities. Whatever the case may be, they do what they do in a disciplined but very compassionate way. Today's Bristol First Award recipients were recognized for just that type of approach to a very unusual incident. Matter of fact, everybody sitting here who's ever had a child will relate to the story. Ms. Candy Foster Rourke contacted us to tell us of her interaction with some of our Bristol First responders, and it also involved her son, who had just received his driver's license, a foot slipping off a brake, and a short ride directly into their home. This story will make everyone aware of what most people already know is being confirmed. Someone in our community who was so touched that she took the time to make this nomination. I'll share her story. I wanted to let you know about an experience I had today. My son just recently got his learner's permit, and sure enough, his first mishap happened today. While parking in front of our apartment today, his foot slipped off the brake, hitting the accelerator, sending us straight into the building and almost into our living room. Neither of us were hurt. However, my son was shaken. As I called 911, I could tell his emotions were reeling and a little panic was setting in. Bless his heart. The first responders from the Haynesville location of the fire and rescue came to save the day. Lieutenant Peters and his team quickly assessed the structural stability of the building with intensity and precision. Then they turned to my son. They embraced his embarrassment and told him how glad they were that we both were safe. They welcomed him to the world of, yes, this could really happen to any of us. I want you to know how amazing these gentlemen were today and how they affected one man's respect and admiration of a simple misjudgment. Appreciation of a simple misjudgment. More than that, they have raised the bar of professionalism and standards for all in their field. I'm quite sure that you are aware of what a great team you have. Please appreciate them and make them aware of just how exemplary they are. Thank you for what you do and for making our community what it is, a better place to live. Best regards, Candy. Excuse me. The recipients tonight are, and if you would step forward, let me first say that firefighter EMT Chad Taylor could not be with us tonight. He sends his regrets. Firefighter EMT Trey Clark. Here you go. If you will step back to the bench. Lieutenant Nathan Johnson. Lieutenant David Peters. And Battalion Chief Alan Howard. I will say this was one of the most interesting stories that we have got in a long time, and it always makes me so proud to see what our firefighters and rescue workers do each and every day. They walk into situations that I could not do. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for everything you do for the city.
Thank you very much. I know I can identify on both levels of that story for both as the parent and also the teenager, so with having unexpected events. Tonight we have a presentation about community visioning from our Chamber of Commerce, and we want to welcome Ms. Beth Reinhardt from the Chamber of Commerce, and with her she has representatives from Market Street Services. They're going to talk with us a little bit about the community visioning process that they're working on.
Good evening, Mayor Fire Robin, members of council. First and foremost, thank you for the opportunity to get a few minutes on your agenda tonight to tell you a little bit about a very exciting process that we started embarking on just today with the public input side. We have with us Market Street Services, Alex Perlstein and Renata Robinson, and I don't want to take any more time because I want them to be able to share the process and talk with you a little bit, so I'm going to pass it off to them.
Thank you, Beth. It's a pleasure to be here in this beautiful part of the state. My name is Alex Perlstein, as Beth said, with Market Street Services. This is my colleague, Renata Robinson. We're just going to take you very quickly through the Bristol 2040 process, which is just kind of launching its public input component today, and then welcome any questions that you might have about the process. Very quickly about our firm, we're based in Atlanta, Georgia. I work from my home in Birmingham, Alabama. So it's an interesting day down there as it is here. And we have been around for 21 years and have worked across the country in over 160 communities, over 35 states. These are just examples of some of the places we've worked at the state level, also in multiple communities in Virginia and Tennessee, big places, small places. These are some of the communities that we're currently working in addition to Bristol. So you see college towns in Bryant, College Station, in Madison, Gainesville, but also places of different sizes, different parts of the country, different economies, different challenges, et cetera. So we're excited to be here in Bristol to facilitate a comprehensive visioning process here. This is an overview of the process. We are just starting today with the public input. We're working with a steering committee of 20 folks, public and private leaders from both states, from Bristol, Virginia, and Bristol, Tennessee, and taking them through some research. Tomorrow we're just going to introduce the process, but it's really built from the perspective of starting with a research base and incorporating the input and then thinking about strategic opportunities, then ultimately implementation plan. This is the steering committee that we will be working with. The folks in bold print are the tri-chairs. So you can see we've got a very top-level, high-level group of leaders from both the public and private sectors who are really going to be steering this process in every sense of the word. We really ask that they kind of put their personal and business interests aside to think of the bigger picture, a consensus builder, to really review reports, to talk to us about it, to kind of be the sounding board, the eyes and ears of the community. If they don't really approve a component of the process, we don't move on to the next piece. So it's ultimately going to be the commitment of these folks that is going to make this a very dynamic and actionable plan. The input is a key part of it. We do a lot of statistical research, but you can only learn so much from the data. So we're doing over a dozen interviews, one-on-one interviews with top leaders, 8 focus groups with different constituencies. Renata just facilitated a group with young professionals earlier today, so that was interesting, and we're meeting with folks in business and government, economic development, faith-based community development, and neighborhood folks. So I'm getting a lot of great perspectives. There is an online survey that's available for everyone who is interested in participating, weighing in, giving their perspective of the community. It's, you can access it at bristol2040.com. There was a press release that went out today that talks about it. This is an image that is a word cloud from another process, and some of the words that are mentioned in these surveys, and we kind of put them into this graphic, and the size of the word demonstrates how many times it was mentioned in the input. So in this particular community, downtown traffic, roads were key issues. So we'll be interested to kind of see what those words look like from this process. Here's the website. It gives you that steering committee list, the different components of the process. My contact information and Beth's contact information is available. Links to the survey, and when we have approved reports, we'll post them on this website. This is a great way to kind of keep track of the process and understand where we are in the planning process. The first research piece is what we call the competitive assessment, and it looks at this community, which we are defining as Sullivan County, Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol, Virginia, and Washington County. So we've kind of created a custom geography to research, and we're comparing the community against these benchmarks, Augusta County and Staunton, Virginia, Spartanburg County in South Carolina, Spotsylvania County and Fredericksburg in Virginia. So we'll get some interesting perspectives on how this community's trends compare to these other places, as well as at the state level and nationally, and kind of talk about these trends in the context of stories, what has occurred to the population, to the economy in the past number of years. There's also scorecards, and we'll give you bonus points if you can read what these indicators are, but it's another way to kind of take a look at the trends in this community. They are for education, they're for employment, they're for industry, and we kind of compare you against 9 communities in this case and rank you in terms of your performance, and red is kind of lowest performing, green is highest performing, so we'll get another good perspective on how kind of recent trends in this community compare more broadly to other places across the country. The final research piece is looking at industry-specific target sectors that make sense to invest in, that you've got a talent base, that you can build wealth, jobs that export either goods or services outside of the community, and looking at the context of the broader region, the Tri-Cities region, to get a sense for what the opportunities are here and maybe how the opportunities fit into that broader regional context. And the last part of this research piece is looking at marketing, how Bristol kind of markets itself for economic development, for tourism, for talent. All of that kind of builds into the strategic plan, which is identifying kind of what the vision of this community in 2040 means in terms of tactical steps to achieve it. It's really going to be holistic from the perspective of it's not just job creation, it's what inputs into job creation, talent, place, infrastructure, et cetera. And then the last piece, which is maybe the most important piece, is how are we going to do it? So what is first? How do we sequence implementation? Do we have the resources to implement? What does it mean in terms of personnel? How do we benchmark our performance, et cetera? So with that, I know it's a lot to kind of communicate it in 5 minutes, but this is a months-long process. We're really going to look to engage with you all, with elected officials across the community, with the media. That website's a great way to kind of keep track of the research process and ultimately the strategy that comes out of it. So any questions or thoughts you have, we're absolutely happy to address them or answer them, both myself, Renata, or Beth.
So at what point do you expect this to be complete?
We are looking at summer as kind of a target date for the strategy to be approved. And then, we'll kind of work with the steering committee to get the implementation plan into, working shape so that it could be that the public launch is not till after our planning process ends, but we'll have an approved strategy, we hope, by the summer.
Great. And I hope no one minds, I had met with Beth Reinhardt yesterday and had asked if maybe she would be available on a bi-monthly basis as a tri-chair to maybe come to our work session and keep us up to date as to exactly how this is progressing. I think it would be great to hear from one of the tri-chairs. So, Mr. Sawyer, would you invite her to our work session?
That's the will of council. We'll be glad to do that.
Thank you.
Yes, that one of the component, the aspects of this process is that there is information that is always being developed and approved that we think is very interesting, and it speaks to both the trends in this community, but also that bigger picture of how the community competes against potential communities that it's looking to attract companies, attract talent.
So I'll say that I participated in a pretty big way in the Ignite vision process in the late 90s. And just the process has changed significantly with a lot more research, a lot more professionalism coming forward that goes into it before you get the input even, as well as with the final product. But that process was extremely beneficial to our community. The process itself was, and then the outcomes and the top 5 physical projects of that visioning we accomplished and are very, very proud of. There were a lot of other things in there that we also have accomplished, and some things that we didn't, that aren't as visible or as tangible in the same way. But I look forward to this. I think it's a great opportunity for our community. I think it's needed. And I know I get to talk to y'all in the next couple of days, so I look forward to it. So anyway, anybody else? All right. Thank you all very much for coming tonight. Beth, thank you for bringing them. All right. Next on our agenda, we have public hearings, but we have no public hearings tonight, so we'll go to appearance of citizens. This section gives people an opportunity to address City Council on matters that are not on the printed agenda for formal consideration. Comments are limited to matters of city business only, and a response is not likely at this time, since in most of the time the council or the city manager aren't prepared to effectively respond. We ask the city manager to look into the matter and get back with us, have staff or the city manager meets with folks with their concerns. So we do try to problem solve as much as we can. And we limit our comments to 3 minutes per individual, and if there's groups, we encourage them to select a spokesperson to represent them. On our list tonight, we have Craig Widener and Trevor Leonard, and if y'all want to decide who comes forward first, and if you'll just identify yourself and give your address for the record, then we will look forward to hearing you.
Hi, I'm Craig Widener. I live at 26.5 6th Street, which is a loft in downtown Bristol. Bristol is a fantastic place to live downtown unless you own a car and don't have dedicated parking spaces downtown. I own my own businesses, often work out of my home. I paid $32 about a month ago to park at my own home for one day because I was on conference calls all day. I was over by 5 minutes on one parking ticket, over by 7 on the other. That's about the 9th parking ticket I've had so far this year. I've asked the police officers who've written the tickets, I've seen them out and about on the Segway, if there's an opportunity to get a residential parking pass. I understand that used to be something that the city had in the past. I've been assured that there's not. I guess my issue is there's a parking lot directly behind all the buildings on 6th Street. The folks that face State Street have dedicated parking spaces. Mr. Hurley has half that parking lot for Northeast State, if I'm not mistaken, which is no longer there. The only folks who do not have dedicated parking are the folks who either own a business or live on 6th Street. So we're ticketed often. There is a matter of unlimited parking along the post office. Those spaces are taken daily by the folks who work at CenturyLink because of where the entrance of their building is. So just would ask the city to consider the opportunity for business owners and residents who live there to get a parking pass. I mean, if it's something we have to pay for, what have you, but it's becoming a problem. I love living in downtown with the exception of that part of it. So if that's something the council would consider, would very much appreciate that.
Okay, thank you very
Thanks.
much. And Trevor Leonard, Mr. Leonard.
Hi, Trevor Leonard, co-owner of the Hemp Cove at 32 6th Street, parking. If Small Business Saturday was on Wednesday, the Pinnacle would eat our lunch because our customers would have to constantly be running back to their car to move it. We do not have dedicated parking. We have to find where we can. We usually park in the Shelby Street parking lot behind 6th Street. However, it is a 3-hour limit, and there's business owners all up and down 6th Street that have done everything from egg timers to an alarm on their phone, and literally you move from one spot to another spot. So there's no gain as far as we might have ran to the bank, we might have ran an errand, they don't know, we move our car. They mark our tires, and we can literally move about 2 or 3 inches, and it's all good. But sometimes I don't have time for that. I'm with a customer, I'm taking care of something, I'm on the phone, and all of a sudden you look at the clock and it's like, oh, I got a ticket. And the problem is that we are restricting parking down through there at the very time that we really don't have all that hard of a time finding us. It's not hard to find a space. You're just not allowed to stay there. Between 9 and 5, Monday through Friday, the traffic in downtown is not all that heavy. Saturday, it's fantastic, and it's a time when parking is completely unimpeded. The small businesses downtown were pretty much 100% small businesses. The Pinnacle, maybe 5. They're all big, huge corporations, and they've got free parking, and that's fine. They paid for it, but we're making it harder for our customers to shop. And if a person does hit downtown and they spend money at one store and then they go to eat and then they go to another store, and by the time all of a sudden it's like they've got a ticket. We're not being very friendly to the consumers. And the $16 ticket, if we need more revenue, come and sit on the bench in front of the Hemp Cove, and you can pop people running the stop signs at Shelby and 6th all day long and cash in, because nobody stops. They all coast through. But if there's something that can be done to help us and make it more convenient for us, where that we're not having to go and do something so juvenile as move our car from one spot to another, or for our customers, because the parking during the week downtown is not very hard. You're just not allowed to stay in one spot. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And parking downtown is an issue that does get attention in cycles, and we certainly will take into consideration as we have conversations with us, with Believe in Bristol, et cetera. So duly noted, and we thank you for bringing it to our attention. So thank you. All right. Is there anyone else who would like to address City Council who didn't sign up ahead? If not, then we'll move ahead. We have appointments. We have 3 boards this evening with nominees. The first one is the Board of Code Appeals. And the candidate, the term of the appointment is 5 years. The candidate is Stephen Willinger. Does anyone like to speak in behalf of the candidate? And then if you'll mark your ballot and pass it down.
Steve's a realtor here, and I think he'll bring a lot to the whole Board of Code and Appeals. So, go Steve.
Okay. Steve's been active in civic life.
Okay, Keene votes for Stephen Willinger. Denise votes for Stephen Willinger. Young votes for Stephen Willinger. Robin votes for none of the above.
Wait, what? Did I type off?
Yes, ma'am. You want to check it?
Yeah, that's not what I want. I want Steve Willinger.
In the meantime, Powers voted for Stephen Willinger.
Oh, I didn't mark anything. That's worse than nothing.
That's none of the above.
Sorry.
So we have 5 votes for Stephen Willinger.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so the next appointment is an unexpired term of office on the Community Development Advisory Board. The term ends April 30th, 2019. Steve Willinger also put his name forward for this committee. And if anyone would like to speak in behalf or say anything about this position.
Just a reminder, this is an unexpired term, so this is essentially for about 6 months.
Right. Thank you very much.
Okay, Keene votes for Stephen Willinger. Young votes for Stephen Willinger. Denise votes for Stephen Willinger. Robin votes for Stephen Willinger. And Powers votes for Stephen Willinger.
All right. We thank everyone for coming forward. The next one we have is Health and Education Facilities, and it's a 5-year term ending June 20th, 2023. That seems a long time from now. The candidate is Eddie George. Does anybody want to speak on behalf of the candidate? I can say he used to be head of our Bristol Memorial Hospital, probably, not Bristol Regional. He probably was Bristol Regional by the time that assuming this is the same Eddie George. So that would be a good fit for him.
Keene votes for Eddie George. Young votes for Eddie George. Denise votes for Eddie George. Robin votes for Eddie George. And Powers votes for Eddie George.
Thank you very much. So next on our agenda would be ordinances, but we don't have any, so we're going to move on to resolutions. And we have a resolution for the acquisition of properties for the purpose of our new middle school. Mr. Sora, talk to us about it.
Yes, as we've done in previous months, this is 2 more properties that are necessary for the construction of the new middle school. At the October 22nd meeting of the Board of Education, approval was granted for the acquisition of two properties. The purchase price for the properties were successfully negotiated with the property owners by agents representing our school system. As City Council is aware, the Board of Education has operational responsibilities for any property associated with the education of children, but the ownership remains titled to the city. So with that in mind, authorization is always sought when they acquire real property. So that is before you tonight. The 2 properties in question, the first is 920 Oakland Drive for a purchase acquisition price of $69,350, and 823 Tremont Avenue for $63,000. As you can see, the board is nearing completion. There's one property that fronts on Oakland Drive that's still under negotiations, and then of course I think it was the 924 Oakland that there was some difficulty in finding ownership, and I understand progress has been made of that. The balance of the properties that you see outlined in blue have already been acquired. So the 2 that you see in the kind of the orange-red color this evening are the two properties that are subject of Resolution 1897.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have questions for staff? Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion in support of Resolution 1897.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
Second.
Let's say in unison.
I'll defer
Really
to Ms.
mess Tara up. Second. All right. Does anybody on council like to discuss this resolution?
I'm just glad it's moving forward.
And is there anyone else here tonight who would like to speak to this resolution? Seeing none. Tara, I think we're ready to vote.
King,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Denise,
Yes.
Fire Rob.
Yes. So on our short agenda tonight, we are ready for the consent agenda. And I think would you read it, and then if anybody wishes to withdraw anything, we'll do it after that.
So be glad to. Minutes of our October 2nd, 2018 City Council meeting. Minutes of the October 23rd, 2018 City Council work session. Resolution 1898, approving a grant agreement with the Tennessee Department of Transportation for the utilization of Federal Highway Administration planning funds for the Bristol Metropolitan Planning Organization. Resolution 1899, authorizing participation in the TML Risk Management Pool Driver Safety Matching Grant Program. Resolution 18100, authorizing the purchase of software support for GIS. Resolution 18101, awarding a bid for the purchase of Fire Department administrative vehicle. Resolution 18102, authorizing entry into an agreement for employee benefit plan consulting services, and Resolution 18103, authorizing entry into a contract with supplemental benefits consultant.
All right, does anyone wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? If not, I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll second.
Thank you. Tara?
King,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Denise,
Yes.
Fire Rob.
Yes. All right, thank you. And now if we could call on Dr. David Welch for the Board of Education Liaison Report, and we welcome you this evening.
Mayor Fire Robin, thank you, and members of the council also thank you. It is a privilege to come and represent our side of the world and come be with you. And Gary, as well as the board, have asked that I share first the thanksgiving for the work that you all are doing, especially like tonight with the proposition or resolution 1897 for the additional securing of those homes. And as Mr. Soar has shared, we have 2 to go, and we're working on that, or those in power are working on that, and hopefully that will come to completion soon. Also today, recognizing that the election is taking place and many of those voting places are in the school system, we want to express thanksgiving to the police department for their officers that maintain security and safety there, and we're hearing great things because we're not hearing anything. So we are grateful for their work taking place there. Hearing tonight the report from the Community Visioning Project of the Bristol 2040 with Ms. Reinhardt and the Chamber of Commerce, and you all are leading, that Gary wanted me to share that several of the district administrators have and will be participating in some of the focus groups of that. And then as well, we're on our own work in the Board of Education reviewing our 5-year strategic plan that will be taking place this Thursday, and review both the progress that we're making and determining what the next steps are. So the visioning process that you're all going through, we're a few steps ahead in our work, but are grateful for that. And of course, we're expecting as well as planning for those to align very closely with one another. Gary asked that I as well share that we're working hard to make several opportunities for students. And just a couple of weeks ago, there was hosted through the school system a career fair for middle school students, which seems odd to me, but it's appropriate to be getting for them to be thinking about what will be coming in careers and how to lean into and do that. And so the intent is for students early on to be discovering so that they might gear their education for that. And he said, please express our thanksgiving for the community partners that help by setting up tables and providing information and activities, and especially even Niswonger's Children's Hospital, who brought a helicopter so that their crew could be there and talking, and it was wonderful for our middle school students to experience that. And then even before that, a week before that, the school system hosted a community conversation through support from Vanderbilt University that focused on strengthening career development and then the transition for middle and high school students with and especially focus upon disabilities and how they might be able to do that. And then the great thing that we want to celebrate this past week is, you may have already heard now, is that two of our schools, Avoca and the Tennessee Online Public School, were both recognized with the Department of Education's highest award, which is known as a reward school, the highest schools of distinction that can be earned currently in our state's accountability model. So we're pleased with that and thankful for that, and aware that two of our other schools would have, but some of the new accounting system didn't allow for that. And as always, we express our thanksgiving for your involvement and your support and the collaboration that you share with us for education and Bristol City. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. City Manager's report, Mr. Sora.
Yes, Mayor, there are several dates that I would like Council to pay particular attention to and participate as you led. This Thursday, where our Community Development Department is having their annual listening and training session, then this is an opportunity. The target is our development community, and this is an opportunity for developers and contractors and design professionals to meet with their staff to get feedback from them as to what we do right, what we could do better, and what we do wrong. How can we help them be successful in our community? Also, as part of this, our residential incentive package will be discussed, as well as BTS will have a representation there, and they will also be discussing their residential development incentive package. So we welcome you to attend this session, and lunch is also served. Again, this is from 11 to 1 on Thursday, November 8th in the Annex Conference Room. Also, this coming Saturday is the annual Veterans Day Parade at 10 o'clock. I know some of you have told me you'd like to participate. I know Terry Napier is putting together the chariot, and he'll be chauffeuring you, so we welcome you to participate in that event. Terry, what time should they begin to form up on Morrison Boulevard? So around 9:30. But if you could give us an idea of your interest in participating, so we know to wait for you if we can. Also on Thursday, November 15th, I know that some of you are aware of this, but there's an effort by Washington County, Virginia, to recruit, and I think Mayor Fire is going to talk about this momentarily. But there will be an announcement with all the local governments involved at Bristol Motor Speedway at 11 o'clock, and you're encouraged to attend that. And Mayor Fire will fill you in on the background of that momentarily. Our annual downtown Christmas open house is Monday the 19th, and this is always a good event just to start off the holiday season. And again, this will be from 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 in our downtown. Our annual Christmas tree lighting will take place at 6:30 p.m. in Cumberland Square on Monday, November 26th. And once again, this is a great opportunity for community to come together and celebrate the start of the holiday season. At our last work session, you indicated the desire to have a luncheon with our Board of Education, as well as our Sullivan County Commissioners. I know Dr. Lilly has consulted with the Board of Education, and Thursday, December the 6th, at the Nature Center at noon works for them. Richard Venable or Mayor Venable is canvassing representation from our Sullivan County Commission on this end, and we'll confirm that shortly. And then also on Thursday, December 6th, that evening is our annual Christmas parade. And I know that's been something that we've all enjoyed from both the staff level as well as City Council. So please mark that date. And then lastly, and we're waiting for confirmation, so this may be somewhat of a tentative date, but our annual coffee with the mayors, with our downtown merchants and our downtown residents and property owners will be at 8 a.m. at the Bristol Hotel. So, and we'll confirm that a little bit later, but that's the tentative date. So please do a save the date on your calendar for that particular. That's Thursday, December the 11th, or excuse me, Tuesday, December the 11th, and that'll be coffee with the mayors at 8 a.m. at the Bristol Hotel.
All right, thank you. All right, City Council comments. While y'all are finishing writing and thinking, just a note on the Veterans Parade. This year, because of when the holiday falls, they are going to have a program afterwards. The traditional Veterans Ceremony is going to be in the Bristol War Memorial Park, and it usually lasts about 45 minutes or something. So if you do the parade and can stay for the program, it's always very meaningful.
I'll start. Sunday before this last, our sermon was, how do we move forward in such a fast-paced world, such an age of technology? What do we take with us, and what are those things that we can lay down and leave behind? And I thought that was very apropos, especially in this season when we are embarking on several different strategic plans. The school system, I know that regionally there are some strategic plans beginning to take shape, this with the chamber, and I think it's real important that that we take a moment and just stop and think about what is it that we do have in our community. We're so blessed with so many things. You know, we have just so many advantages and blessings in this community that I don't think we always recognize and take advantage of. And what are those things that we can leave behind? And I think a lot of those things that we can leave behind have to do with personal character. You know, especially today, you know, what can we leave behind? We can leave behind sarcasm. We can leave behind our negative attitudes. We can leave behind our closed minds. We can leave behind exclusion. There's so many things that we can leave behind that really don't take away from necessarily what we have, where we live. It's just how we interact with one another. So I think as we move forward as a community, it's real important to remember those things that are most important for us to take forward with us. And the things that we have experienced up until today, that we lay those things down and that we're able to move forward without that baggage upon us. I would also like to thank and congratulate Dr. Gary Lilly, who was named TSSAA's Highlight #1 Administrator for the state of Tennessee. Good job. I'd like to commend our football team as they are in the next round of competition in our state playoffs. And just would really like to encourage everyone to come and to be even more engaged in our community.
I'll share. This month is November, and as was alluded to by our school board member, Mr. Welch, it's about Thanksgiving. And so I'm just going to share two things I'm thankful for, and that is my faith and my family.
Well, I'll ditto what both of you said, very well put, and I'll just mention, you know, there are folks out there that spend the holidays alone. And think about neighbors and friends and church members that you go with. Invite them for Thanksgiving. And we did that last year, and it really was meaningful for one particular lady that came over by there. So I'll say happy Thanksgiving to all as well.
My hot buttons are always economic development and education, and never ceases to disappoint with the progress that we make in both of those areas. So kudos to all of our economic development efforts that are going forward. And also I just want to share some information about a state program that is called ACT Work Ready Communities. And some things that, actually let me put my glasses on. The point of the ACT Work Ready Communities is to link workforce development to education. It aligns with the economic development needs of communities, regions, and states, and it matches individuals to jobs based on skill levels, which alludes to what Mr. Welch was talking about earlier. And by our school system participating in the ACT's Work Ready community, what it helps is business and industry know exactly what foundational skills they need for a productive workforce. Individuals understand what skills are required by employers and how to prepare themselves for success. Policymakers consistently measure the skills gap. Educators close the skills gap. And economic developers use an on-demand reporting tool to market the quality of their workforce. And the results from last year's testing came in. And last year, we had Tennessee high school seniors to participate. They were ranked according to bronze, silver, gold, or platinum ratings. And we had 37 bronze, 43 silver, 48 gold, and 36 platinum scores from Tennessee high school. And very proud of the accomplishments there. And also I would like to thank Bristol, Tennessee Essential Services for supporting and providing the cost of that testing to our students, and very grateful to see this sort of thing start to happen. It's helping our community to come together seamlessly, joining their education with our business owners and the skills that are needed. And what we're going to see from this, more businesses coming into the area, and also our students graduating and going to work with higher paying jobs. So thank you all for participating, and thanks to BTS for paying for it.
All right, thank you. I have a few things that are coming up to just mention. One is the Tennessee Eastman's Quality Forum this Thursday, that Lola McVeigh is one of the keynote speakers for that from BTS. Also we have coming, the Birthplace of Country Music is affiliated with the Smithsonian, and we get to have exhibits that are Smithsonian touring exhibits. The one that's coming this weekend opening is For All the World to See, and it is Visual Culture and the Struggle for Civil Rights. And the BCM folks have put together a series of different events, discussions, et cetera, around this this exhibit that should be very good for our community to see the exhibit, but also have some conversations that are important to have and that maybe we don't always have opportunity to have. I'll make a plug for Fiddler on the Roof that's at Theater Bristol. It's a big production. It's going to be at the Paramount. Encourage people to get your family and friends and go. Also for the next 2 weekends. Also on Monday at Meadowview, Dreamland is going to be a panel discussing the book Dreamland, which tells the history of how we came to today's opioid epidemic. The book is very interesting, and talking about Mexico and then all the different communities that have been struggling particularly difficult, as well as the drug companies with OxyContin, et cetera. The author is going to be there and have a panel discussion with some folks from this region, so that should be pretty significant. I'll make another plug also, Friends of the Library. Our downtown library has not had an active Friends group for several years. They're regrouping, and that is on the 12th at 6:30. Encourage people to think about doing that, and if you don't get to the meeting, hopefully you can join at some point. Since the last meeting, I was invited to talk about passenger rail as my role with our coalition that I do because of being on the train station board, and was invited by Bob Plummer to talk to a group in Johnson City. He put the invitation out, and it was covered in Johnson City Press. Almost all of it pretty accurate, and great publicity for passenger rail for Bristol and for our region. So it ups the discussion. It also ups our responsibility for how do we move forward and what's our role as a city, not just a group of folks who are talking about it. So hopefully we're going to have some more conversations about passenger rail. And we'll, hopefully, by the end of the year, we'll see the study from Bristol, Virginia on the economic impacts. The letter that is in front of you that Mr. Sora talked about, it is about the opportunity, and this is one of those things that is not, this is big, but not something you think about till all of a sudden it's a possibility, and it is supporting Washington County's welcoming and recruitment of the USDA agency to relocate at the old Alpha building. And I would hope that we have a good chance. There are quite a few people in the running, but this is a huge opportunity if we could bring federal employees to come and live and work in our area. I see it as it could be the beginning of another level of getting some other folks to come. And also, it would help if we had passenger rail that people could get from here to D.C. easily, comfortably, and be able to work on the train while they're in progress. Anyway, so we're signing a letter that supports Washington County so they can show all the good things about our region as well as the support that we come together for. So to me, this is a great, we're talking a lot about regionalism. This is a great example of one of those projects. And the last couple things, one is I'll just say that I saw several places in the news, and also I know Kay Ward and the work that she does, and she was honored with a little library. And I would encourage anybody who's interested in doing a little library, you can always contact Lee Powers, also anybody from the Junior League or our school system or United Way. A lot of people know how to hook up, or Jan Dietrich. A lot of people know how to make those things happen, but anybody who would like to put in a little library in their front yard, at their business, sponsor one for a particular neighborhood, they are a great service that's provided. And I believe the guy who first started them just recently passed away. Kay Ward, do you want to speak about Kay for a second? Pull your microphone down.
Kay has been huge. She was an integral founding partner with the Reading Buddies, and she and Mr. Paul worked very diligently on that. She is the director of our Community Outreach Center that is housed on the second floor of our building on the Parkway, and our associates, we have Burke, Powers, and Hardy, and our associates were trying to decide what they were going to dress up as for Halloween. And so they decided they would dress up as their favorite children's book. And so from there, it just rolled on into a little library. And it was a great experience. We stocked it with books that we had, that different clients brought in, volunteers brought in. And amazingly, it has really been used. And I knew that it would be used, but I thought minimally, moderately at best. But we have seen books go out, and there are new books in that I know were not there, and it has just been amazing. So if you have a business, if you in your home, at your neighborhood, if you have the opportunity to put in a little library, it was a lot of fun. It didn't take a lot of money. It didn't take a lot of time, and we have already been gratified, and Kay's been pretty tickled. So thank you for letting me share that. That was a great, great
the little libraries get listed on a website so that anybody who's looking for them can find them. And they had, with the guy who established it just recently passing, so you can take a book, leave a book, you can just leave a book, you can just take a book. Some folks who they interviewed with it talked about really enjoying taking one of their favorite books, so perhaps even purchasing one of their favorite books that they want to keep a copy of, and putting it out there to be able to share it with other people. And I hadn't gotten that far. Mostly I'm putting out ones I've already read and not going to keep it in my home anymore. So the thought of really choosing books that you really enjoyed and putting them in some of those libraries is a great idea.
And I'll say this, and then I'm done. But Kay made the point, and it's so true. Regardless of what we do with economic development, regardless of what our infrastructure is, regardless, Any individual's greatest success is determined by their ability to read. And if we do not have a reading population, our population will probably not be nearly as successful as they could be if they are a reading population. And so that is her passion for reading, is because as a first grade teacher, Kay Ward has witnessed and understood firsthand how valuable reading is. And not everyone, so oftentimes we take for granted that we just have books. There are just, most people don't have books in their homes that are their books. And quite honestly, if the books are taken and they're left in a child's home or in his room or her room over and over to read, that's fine. We'll keep restocking.
Thank you. Okay, so I will just end with, I think the only person who's talked directly about elections was Dr. Welch with our polling sites that we had. I am very appreciative of Tennessee's progressiveness with early voting program that they have. Also, I feel confident with our election commission that our voting machines are secure and we don't have ones that need replacing immediately. We have a good system, it's solid. So really appreciate that. And then I did not hear the sermon that you heard, but I would think from listening to what you've said, that's also some of what we can, with this election season, some of those things we can leave behind also as we move forward. So greatly appreciate each and all of us with the work that we do and get along together most of the time. And we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.